I'm joined by Hoboken's 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos. Councilman, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us on Hudson TV.
No problem, Jeff. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, you're planning on introducing a resolution, I believe, at the next council session, which is early March. You want to see progress start to move ahead on the construction, the design and the construction of a new recreation center for the city. Talk a little bit about that. I know things had about 3 years ago, a process had begun, but it's kind of stalled.
Yeah, so we started a process in 2018, whether it be to rehab, totally demolish, rehabilitate the multi-service center. So we had one public meeting back in the spring of 2018. And one of the items that really came up and pushed back against it was the multi-service centers currently houses our senior citizen programs in the city. And when we were having the conversations, they would say, where are these programs going to be held for the foreseeable future? And we were looking at various sites around the city, and we really couldn't find anything to accommodate those services. So with that being the case at that time, that conversation ceased to move forward at that time. But since that happened, we purchased the Jubilee Center, which is on Jackson Street in early fall. And so that can potentially alleviate that concern of housing a senior citizen program there. And so that's why I'd like to see that conversation restart once again. We've been to the multi-service center. We do invest a lot of money in that every single, just to make it operational, whether it be the heating system, the HVAC system, just various repairs within the roof. It was a building that was built in the 1960s. We have tried to keep up with it, but our city population has also grown since that time period. And it's really outgrown its use as far as 24/7 usefulness for the city, and to accommodate our senior citizens that currently use the space probably the most out of everyone. Our student population who uses their recreational space for the basketball courts there, our rec cheerleading team, which uses it quite often, the girls softball program, which uses it for our winter training program, adult basketball leagues, which utilize the space, and recreational basketball leagues throughout the year as well. So it does encompass a lot. There's a library annex within the facility as well. Family planning services are in the building, and also a daycare center. So a lot of things that the building accommodates, that hopefully we could try and repurpose the area to accommodate those, and expand the services as well with a larger footprint of the building.
Right. It's, from what you're saying, it sounds like there's an awful lot going on. Like the old saying, you've only got 24 hours in a day. You've only got so much space in the facility. Now, the majority of the things that are happening there that you've been talking about aren't the quote unquote sports type activities for a recreation center. You mentioned the cheerleaders, but I mean, one of the things that was proposed for the new high school that was voted down was an ice hockey rink. You've got a rink behind the multi-service center, but it's not a full-fledged seating capacity, full-fledged hockey type facility. What would you envision in a design if this were to go out, request for proposals, if the administration approves this? What types of things would you like to see included? And do you have any location in mind that could potentially house something to be constructed?
Well, I think, and part of the conversation back in 2018, the roller rink that was now outdoors would be part of an enclosed facility. So it does have more potential for square footage to be added around the roller rink. Maybe that does become a full-scale ice hockey rink if you move that further east. That there we could have locker rooms and the concession stands and other areas in there, basketball courts on the second floor. People talking, maybe you can put a pool on the roof. So you can have many things could be there. That's why you have to include the public, because when you include the public, you get good ideas of what their usage is, right? For 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, for 50-year-olds, for 70-year-olds, for 23-year-olds. You get all that feedback, and then obviously the most important thing is the cost. And you could say, okay, here's design A, which will cost X. Here's design B, which will cost Y, and here's design C, which will cost Z. And that'll be all part of this planning process going forward. And it's very similar to what we've done with all parks throughout the city. The parks aren't just an imagination of what comes out of my head. It's an imagination of what comes out of the public's head. As part of that process with the architects that we hired to lead us through this whole not ordeal, but just a process that I personally enjoy getting the public input, because they do have a lot of ideas that we do hear and we input. And I'll give you an example of this. I think 5-6 years ago, we probably never heard of pickleball. I didn't hear of pickleball much as a popular sport, just in the background. Right now, pickleball is one of the highest growing sports in the United States right now. And we have a Hudson County Pickleball organization that's based out of Hoboken that was looking at pickleball access. So we accommodated them in the northern part of the city. But right now, they've grown so much that they're going to be a key component to the new Southwest Park being designed, is pickleball, because they're there 9 a.m. every Saturday playing pickleball, 4:30 p.m. every 5 days a week playing pickleball. So that's the type of activity that we want to see in our parks. People actually use it in the parks. So that's an idea that I would have never said pickleball is going to be a main component of this. But now people are using it.
I never heard of pickleball until a couple of months ago. I must be getting old because I didn't even know what it was until it's back.
And so that's a prime idea of going through a public process, getting public input, seeing the usage that the public puts into it and the enjoyment they're getting out of it. Because you don't want to just build a park and no one be there. And we don't want to build a rec center and no one utilize it. You want to see a rec center that everyone's utilizing, everyone's enjoying in town.
What is the likelihood when you're talking about construction of a new rec facility? What's the likelihood that something like this, you talked about cost, how would it be paid for? Would there be an opportunity to find some type of a grant assistance for something like this?
I don't know if there's a grant assistance for something like this, but we do have various redevelopment zones in town. And normally when you have redevelopment zones, the use has to be adjacent to that redevelopment zone. But it also has caveats where it could be used for city purposes outside redevelopment zones as well. And so this multi-service center falls into that category. We have about 4 redevelopment zones in the city of Hoboken right now, so we could utilize that process as well. And that's always a conversation. How are we going to fund these things? And the public will dictate that as well. This is how much we're willing to pay in taxes, because we have to be totally transparent and honest with them. If you want A, this is what it's going to cost. Want B, this is what it's going to cost. This is how it's going to impact you, both as a community and as a taxpayer as well.
So assuming this goes forward and we get a request for proposal and a design that ultimately gets approved and the process starts to begin construction on a new rec center site, what ultimately happens to the multi-service center? Does some minor rehabilitation take place there so that can?
I think we're looking at this happening at the multi-service center site. We're not looking at alternate locations. So I think that'll say, okay, this is what you could do currently on the site to repurpose it. This is what you could do if you demolish and reconstruct a brand new building at this location. So that'll all be part of the conversation as we move forward.
Okay. Wow.
So I like to look at it as a blank slate. That nothing is there right now, but our imagination and obviously the cost can be the prohibitive factor in all of that. But let's try and be creative as possible. I don't think we're looking for the Barclay Center design on the outside of it, right? We're looking for the most highly functional space that everyone could use and enjoy.
You don't want a big video board on the eastern side of the
building? I don't think we're looking at LED designs inside or outside or bird's nest designs as well. Looking for something that's nice, but yet functional. I think it's more, the bones are more important than the skin at this point with that design.
The people that are coming into Newark Airport can see that if they've never been here, they can say, oh, that's the Prudential Center.
Well, maybe we get sponsorship from someone and put their name on the roof, like a SoFi and buildings like that around town.
So you're planning on introducing this at the next meeting? You're planning on introducing the resolution at the next meeting?
Well, the next meeting, it'll go through, the council president has said the process he'd like to see is this go before the committee. So hopefully that'll happen in the next 2 weeks, have a conversation in committee. And hopefully from there we'll get administration buy-in because they'll have to assign like what director is going to oversee this project, things like that. So, but ultimately to get their buy-in is getting the public buy-in. But the feedback I've received in the past since Tuesday has been great, and people really want to be engaged in the process and get involved in the process to make this a reality.
Okay, well, Ruben, thank you for joining me on Hudson TV to talk about your vision for a potential new rec center in the city. We'll see how things go.
I appreciate it, Jeff. And I'll keep you abreast of any updates going forward.
All right, very good. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Good to see anybody. Take care. Thank you.
All right.